Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Minions: The Rise of Gru. I know everyone was, or whatever, going to this movie wearing a suit, but I didn't really feel like wearing a suit when I watched it, or didn't feel like wearing a suit while I reviewed it. That's just not what Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I'm wearing a suit for Minions: Rise of Gru. No, I'm not actually going to do that shit. But Minions: The Rise of Gru. This is the sequel to the other Minions movie, which was a prequel. So this is a sequel prequel. I guess there's two Minions or Gru or Despicable Me franchises running at the same time in different timelines. I can't think of a different franchise that has, like, you might have one that's a prequel and then your current one, but I've never seen one that's like going back and forth like this one currently is. We basically get Despicable Me 2, we got the Minions, we got Despicable Me 3, and now we get Minions: The Rise of Gru, and then we get Despicable Me 4 is next. So that's interesting. It's also interesting that animated sequels seem to be able to be a little more lenient on that stuff. Like, look at Lightyear and look at this, and it seems to be like even more mainstream than, like, you know, each of the Star Wars shows bumping around in continuity. It's like not as big of a deal, which is interesting. So this movie is about the Minion. Well, okay, so here's the problem with the plot of this movie. Ultimately, is this movie is a sequel to the Minions movie. The Minions movie was about the Minions and had no Gru except at the end. Spoilers. They know each other. I don't know if you knew that, but so they meet up at the very end. Again, sorry. And then in this one, we start off mainly with Gru. Now, this is not called The Young Gru Adventures or Rise of Gru and also Minions, so that's confusing. It doesn't seem to emphasize the same three Minions who were the main part of the other one, although Otto, I think, is in this one. You know him. But for the most part, it's mainly centralized on Gru, which is weird because this is, like, you know, not his headline franchise. He's got another one. But the beginning of this movie is mainly about Gru, from Gru's perspective, which is strange because, I mean, I guess Gru rose up enough that this movie is now about him. It's not about Minions, which is weird. And then he gets, like, there's this team called not the Sinister Six for legal reasons, the Vicious Eight or something. Whatever. But the Vicious Six, and he wants to join them, and they say he can't. And then he tries to steal this diamond, and then, like, this old guy who started it was kicked out, and then he kidnaps Gru, and he's going to, like, and then him and Gru team up, and the Minions have to go find him in San Francisco and all that stuff. So then, once Gru is kidnapped, it becomes the Minion sequel. Like, it's not really structured very well. It's not set up like, and it's basically just like, Gru's kidnapped. Oh yeah, we got to do, this is the Minions too, right? Sorry. It's really, I think Illumination is known for, if you look at Sing, you look at Secret Life of Pets 2 as well, but Sing 1 and 2 do this. Some things that have A and B plots, this is going all the way to F and G, and H is in there somewhere too. They have a lot of plot lines normally running at once, which this one I don't think has that many, but has, like, say almost A, B, C, D, E plot lines, something like that. They'll have these various different plot lines, and sometimes they don't even connect or anything. In Sing, they wrap them up a little better. I was kind of, while I was watching this, just, like, confused. Why not structure it better? Why not have it more from the Minions perspective about Gru? Why have it in the 70s even? That makes literally no sense. I did like that when they went and saw Jaws, you could hear it was actually the audio from Jaws. I thought that was kind of neat. I mean, it's a Universal movie, and Jaws is famously a Universal movie, so I get it. But it was kind of cool. I was like, oh, okay, looks like Gru is actually watching Jaws. I don't think that matters, or changes my opinion of the movie in any way, but I did go, that's what Jaws sounds like. Of the Illumination sequels, I think the sequels can kind of show you the legacy of the franchise, and Despicable Me 2 was actually, I think, maybe my favorite one of that franchise, and Secret Life of Pets 2 was sort of a dud, and Sing 2, I think, just sort of did the same thing, and then Hop 2 Sonic the Hedgehog was, like, you know, kind of the same thing as the first one. You can kind of tell what the legacy is going to be. If you're able to deliver, like, a sequel that really either does the same thing or elevates it, you'll do fine in Illumination. If you kind of waffle, which I think Secret Life of Pets 2 just sort of did, it doesn't work out for you as well. Unless there is a Secret Life of Pets 3, and I'm totally wrong, but it just felt like that one didn't work as well as the original. I'm not as angry as I was with the previous Minions film. I sort of get it, but I get it in a way that's like, I guess these are jokes, but I'm not sitting there laughing or enjoying it or even getting, I don't know. I don't get the Minions. There's certain parts like when they're in San Francisco and they realize San Francisco is very hilly, so they roll down all over the place. That was funny a little bit. I like that the RZA is in this and Michelle Yeoh. I mean, the RZA, like, come on. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize people at Illumination knew what Wu-Tang was. And you can sort of tell this is a different creative team because it is not directed by Pierre Coffin, who's the voice of the Minions, or at least the lead voice or whatever. Who directed most of them until this. Doesn't seem to be, he doesn't have a screenplay or a story credit unless he looked at the script and went, okay. I mean, I guess he did because he had to say his Minion gibberish stuff. So you can kind of tell it's a little different, but one with the Despicable Me Minion things is like, these are all supposed to be villains. They're not sort of evil, and I guess it makes them uncomfortable to go full evil because it's a kids movie. You don't want to be cruel, but like Looney Tunes does that kind of stuff, and the classic ones and the current ones, and like it doesn't, like, kids are fine with that, so I don't really see the problem. It sort of shows me a real lack of imagination sometimes. Like, they'll have these kung fu things, they'll sort of understand the 70s in this very broad sense that makes no sense whatsoever, and you might say, oh, I should just relax. It's the Minions movie, which I think this film banks on far too often. It's like, yeah, I get that you're like, oh, it's a silly kids movie. It almost feels like you do it in a way that you don't really respect the audience and you didn't spend the time to like scroll down on a Wikipedia page. Like, it feels like somebody who, like, you know, they saw that movie once or whatever and they sort of get what, you know, kung fu cinema is. They sort of get like what a road trip movie is supposed to be, or they Google image search. Very surface level stuff, but like, you're not saying very much of anything with it. It doesn't feel like this film, its perspective feels like it just skims the surface of everything, and that's just the Despicable Me and the Minions and how they run things. And I don't actually watch these with my kids because I have a don't ask, don't tell policy with these, and that they've never told me about the Minions, and I'm not going to ask them, or they never asked me about the Minions, and I'm not going to tell them. Whatever, we haven't watched this crap basically, but it's not something I'm super excited for. I don't think it, like, you know, you look at Pixar, you look at Disney, there's a great legacy there, and there's a lot of good movies, and they at least try to do interesting stuff. I don't really see that with Illumination. It really just feels like the corporate studio who, you know, it's like, what if DreamWorks was Shark Tale all the time? That's Illumination. I just, you know, it has a lot of celebrity guests, and sometimes you're like, oh wow, they got that person. That seems to be a thing with them. I just don't get the love for it. I didn't grow up with it. If you have fun and you got in a suit and went with your friends and stuff, like, that's fine. Like, I'm glad you had fun. And I think if you're going to this as like a group thing, I think you could potentially like have, you know, a really fun kind of service level time. But I don't think this is like a good movie whatsoever. I had more fun and enjoyed it, I guess, more than the last one, but in a, you know, very surface level basic sort of way. So I've never really, I like the franchise a little bit more when Gru has more of a motivation with his family. I've always thought that works better than Minions because, like, they don't really want to be evil or bad or something like that in these movies. So and the super villain thing just, it feels very toothless in a way that just doesn't really inspire me or I find interesting whatsoever. Illumination is just sort of like the, you know, Hot 100 FM radio station of animation, and is about as surprising and as interesting as that is on a normal day nowadays. But I know everyone's kind of doing this, like, the idea in music criticism of poptimism and like reviewing pop music and like giving it its due respect and stuff, which I'm actually very much for, even though I just insulted a Hot 100 station. But I agree with that, but I think with movies, like, yeah, I guess it's been COVID and we haven't seen each other, and it's wonderful to get together, and hey, I'm totally not against that whatsoever. But we can't just like accept everything that Hollywood throws at us, and that's like kind of in extreme contrast to actual criticism and, you know, actually having opinions on anything. And Minions: The Rise of Gru does not change my mind on this. It's not a good movie. It's a messy movie that's like sort of enjoyable. It's sort of what you expect from a summer movie, but I don't think this like makes me change my mind on Illumination. If anything, it just shows me like they made a movie that's mostly filler, that sort of accomplishes nothing and can't really be as evil and as mean when you're making a movie about villains? Like, what? I hate kids' movies that are about villains. They're like, no, but they're not all bad. And you're like, okay, I mean, they are, though. Can't you just, like, are you a writer? Like, this feels pathetic. So, Minions, The Rise of Gru kind of continues the Illumination tradition of making me kind of watch a thing wash over me. I guess I've loosened in terms of like really hating them. I've just accept their kind of, white noise of comedy that they play out in every one of these movies, and I guess I've continued to accept that white noise that the Minions do as they exist in our society. I just don't really like it all that much. So if you have seen Minions, The Rise of Gru, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.